Hey guys, and welcome to a very new episode of Galaxy's Greatest Podcast. I am here with the one and only Ollie. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. Looking forward to these new crisis.
Yeah, definitely. So, as Ollie just said, we're going to go through all the new crisis. We're going to go through what teams we feel like they're going to benefit or what teams might struggle. And yeah, just go through the list. But we were talking about it the other day that it's always exciting when we get new crisis. I think it's really healthy for a game to keep changing missions or maps or anything like that. So I think MCP really thrives on it. There's lots of discussion, obviously, and new ways of winning or new ways of losing sometimes. But yeah, really excited to look through these. Overall, how have you sort of found looking at the new missions? It's been exciting. Has it been a bit daring? Like how are you feeling about them?
It's interesting. I think the new types of points are something that will change the game, definitely. I'm a bit disappointed there's not as many zones. Obviously, there's a lot of sources in the new pack. There's only one zone, but I suppose like the AMG have said in a lot of other podcasts, they're trying to match it to a theme. But at least now they're in the game. Future kind of packs might have these in, so it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of shakes out in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the first one that we're going to look at is the first zone of its sort of kind. So, yeah, really looking forward to that. Also, as well, just a quick apologies about the last terrain episode. I've got a new mic and I just obviously loved the sound of my own voice, but I bumped up my mic too much, and you couldn't hear poor Ollie. So I do apologise, but we've had a few runs with this now, and the sound should be much better. So yeah, fingers crossed. But right, should we just get into the new crisis? So first one, should I say, is uh, X-Men Infiltrate Secret Weapons Facility. So yeah, as Ollie said, you place 4 grid tokens, which are zones, which is brand new, on the map below. And it's a pay to flip, so you roll dice equal to this character's energy defense, and it's the same as all the others, apart from obviously M-Cram, which isn't in the game anymore. But yeah, so you've just got to have more crits, wilds, or hits than there is number of healthy enemy characters on the grid. But the most important part is during the score VP's part of the cleanup phase, if a character controls 2 or more grids that have at least one enemy character in their arc, that player scores 1 additional VP. And then during the power phase, cleanup phase, sorry, each player places up to 1 grid they control within one of its current position, which is really interesting because this is the first time where the character, the player that actually controls the secure gets to move it. Obviously, we've had Fisk and Wedding Party where if you don't, if you do control it, then the opponent moves it. So that's really cool. But what are your sort of first thoughts and feelings on this one, mate?
It's definitely interesting. Kind of shifting pay to flip is it's definitely the first of its kind. Um, I think this one rewards kind of forward planning. So because you're not scoring the VP and like moving it and scoring the VP at the same time, you almost have to set it up around in advance. So one thing I can see that will be quite commonplace is if you secure one and you've got prio, you can try and flip it in a way that lines up two, and then try and daze a character so that they're sat in the arc in your first activation, so that they're kind of trapped there. And then you've just got to try and win the points, so that it makes your opponent have to flip one of those points back to stop you scoring the additional VP.
Yeah, I agree. I think we were talking about it as well, saying that I think characters that have advances, so like Moon Dragon with a Mind Gem, Cassandra Nova, Loki, Enchantress, all of these characters which find it really easy to move characters, I think will be like big winners on this secure, because you'll be able to, obviously, an advance is way easier than a push or a throw to get them in the arc, off a point, and where exactly you want them. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting one. I've not played it yet, but it'll be interesting as well, whether both of the so you've got your home secure and their home secure, whether the three meets bang in the middle. So whether, obviously, if it's like a midline grab, whether the opponent's already got one character that's in the arc. I'm not too sure. It looks close enough where the three will hit the middle. What do you reckon?
I think it's tight. I'm just doing the maths. So 4 is 8 inches, and the 2 is 3 inches. So the centre up is 11 inches up. So no, it'll be an inch short on either side.
Right. Okay.
You've
So
got a
yeah.
little safe bubble.
Okay.
If there is a
Perfect.
secure in the middle, you can not get not be in one of the arcs, which is good.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think they've obviously thought about that with the game design. I'd imagine, because that could be quite a feel bad of just forcing your opponent to pick the middle point up and being like, right, okay, I'll just flip my home one, and then I've just try to deal with one of the side ones and move someone in there and get the extra VP. So yeah, at least they've sort of thought about that, and it's not too easy to get that extra VP.
Agreed. The other two things that are worth noting is the distance up the 4 and the 2 means you can't sit a big base behind it and auto flip it like you could if it was a D shape. So it's you're gonna have to at least move to it in the first round. It's also worth noting that the contest is still within range 1 of the point. Arcs are just for the special rules of the crisis, not for the pay to flips, which might confuse a few people to start with.
Yeah, and we should talk about arcs real quick actually, because it was only added um, about a month ago um, in the document. So arcs, so it's like a 90-degree arc, and it's like a range free from the actual token. So it's the arc itself's quite a big area. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting what people sort of decide to do in real life tournaments. Because obviously you're not technically supposed to bring like laser pens or anything like that, but obviously trying to get it bang on, but it's going to be quite interesting, and I think TOs are going to be called a lot to see whether a certain character's in the arc or not. But I think TTS it's going to be amazing, but in real life it might get a bit hectic. But yeah, what are your thoughts about sort of the arc, and do you reckon it'll work well in real life?
Yeah, I think it'll work. It'll a lot like MCP measurements in general. I think you'll just have to, I don't say give the benefit of the doubt, but if it's marginal, apply some common sense to it. It's like how when you're measuring a range 3 and you can't get the range 3 in because of the models and terrain and everything else, you have to go with a little bit of judgment. Um, I think it's worth noting the arc is obviously measured from the edge of the token. It's not measured from the center point.
Yeah.
So it's what, half an inch plus the range 3. So it's quite a big area when you're looking at it. So that there is a lot of play. So hopefully there shouldn't be too many borderline cases. Um, Obviously the only thing that worries me is them getting knocked because they're directional bonuses. There is a possibility as models get put on them or they're kind of moved around, things are measured off them, they could get knocked. But that's probably the only concern, and even then, it's still only going to be a few degrees, which
Yeah.
of the size of the zone is very minimal. Like if you're going to be putting somebody in a zone for some reason, you're probably going to be throwing them down the center if you can help it, because then it takes that error out.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. But yeah, I'm really excited to sort of try this one out, and the fact it's energy defense just makes me want to play Claw again. Like
Yeah,
sorry, Karen.
Claw's probably very good at it actually, because with his push after the activation, if even if they flip it, he can just push them straight off into the zone.
Yeah, definitely. He'll be fun on it. Potentially not under Kingpin being paid to flip, but maybe under Modoc that'd be quite fun. Um, but yeah, I've took a little bit of a break from Criminal Syndicate at the moment. I'm on a bit of a Hulkbuster sort of idea at the moment. But yeah, I won't get too much into that in this one. But what sort of teams do you reckon would do like are going to do well on this, and what teams aren't?
With high energy defense or a lot of displacement. So Asgard is one that comes to mind because obviously a lot of the bigger threat characters have got 4 energy defense and they've got ways of controlling you. So like you've mentioned Loki before, but you've also got Jane and uh, Thor 5 threat can kind of throw characters as well. Um, Obviously you've got Bill as well, who's got a 4 energy defense. So they're probably really good on this. Um,
Yeah, I think as well. Just before you carry on, I think Lady Sif's going to be really good with it because on her builder, she's got a omnidirectional push as well. So I think omnidirectional pushes are going to be amazing. So she's going to be good on it. Ulik's obviously going to be good on it. Um, but yeah, Strange as well.
Yeah, Doctor Strange. Yeah, I was just about to say that Doctor Strange
Yeah,
and Blue Marvel will be good on this.
amazing. Yeah.
Especially as you know that they're not all of them are moving. At least two of them will be staying stationary. So if you can keep hold of one of yours, like your back one, and put your pentagram on it, you could jump up to one of the two, or kind of position it so you can interact with one, flip that back, keep those together, and then try and force onto the others maybe, or try and drag your opponents in by getting Echo or Shang-Chi to flip the other one and kind of drag that towards the pentagram bubble maybe.
Yeah. Also, I think it's worth noting as well because I think it's quite important who has priority because obviously the team that have got priority move their zone first. So I'm not too sure. I think if you don't have priority in this, it's probably quite good if your opponent's trying to set up like uh, an arc, which hurts most of your team. So I think yeah, like losing priority on this feels quite big. But again, it's a pay to flip. Anything can happen. It sort of counters itself because obviously pay to flips you normally want to go last. And especially this one, it's quite close. If you've got like a long mover, like I know obviously you absolutely love ASM. If you've got ASM and you've got last activation and he's already sat on one, he potentially can flip all four if he's got the power.
Yeah, thinking about it, ASM, well, especially Namor, but and Angela actually, but ASM can do it as well if he gets a bit lucky. They can all dive to the one in the middle and then potentially walk to the one at the back, so they can dive in and flip your opponents as well.
Oh yeah,
So they,
yeah, his crit. Yeah.
yeah, so they might be really good as a round one play to try and basically force somebody into an arc where they don't want to be. Um, but we'll have to see how people's game plan is going into this. Whether you kind of go really bold with it, or whether you try and be a bit more risk averse with it.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm excited to try it out. Have you got any other thoughts about this, or should we go on to the next one?
I think that's everything. We'll go on to the next one.
Perfect. So the next one is let me get it up on this one. So it's power overload. Factory goes up in flames. Do you want to go through this one, mate?
Yeah, so this is 4 power conduit tokens, so they're points of interest. So it means they're a king of the hill style objective rather than a pay to flip. And you score 1 for each power conduit you control during the cleanup phase. In addition, during the score VP's part of the cleanup phase, if you're securing 2 or more power conduits, and at least 2 of those are not within 5 of each other, you score a bonus VP. So it should be noted that you can always see them like columns. So the nearest to the bottom right and the top left are columns. If you're controlling one that's in the opposite column, um, you're getting the bonus VP. So it's only stopping you if you hold the 2 in one column, you're not getting the bonus. If you're getting 1 on either side, you are. Uh, in addition, during the cleanup phase, for each power conduit, if there's 3 or more characters within one, you suffer a damage. So it's worth noting it doesn't specify non-dazed or anything like that. So if a character gets dazed and obviously you can't walk them off it or anything, it will still lash out if there's two other characters there with them.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think Kingpin's going to be good on this one. I think you could probably go 4-1 up quite comfortably round one, um, with like Black Cat and Echo like going on the secure, like the enemy secure as such, closest to the midpoint. So I think, yeah, I think they could go 4-1 up round one quite comfortably. But obviously depends what happens after round one, really. Obviously, all of the new ones are quite slower scoring, so I don't know where Kingpin sort of fits on this. But I think this is one that it's probably his favourite one out of the new secures. But I quite like it. It's like a diagonal Guardian save Shi'ar, isn't it? Where they're relatively not too wide from each other. But yeah, you've got like little lanes, but this feels quite interesting because I don't necessarily think you're going to get any lanes anymore because obviously it's on a diagonal front. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this. Who do you reckon are the winners and losers on this one?
I, I do think Kingpin's probably going to want to play this one a lot if he can't get Scoundrels. The one thing that I think will be interesting is the fact that the damage you suffer doesn't give you power. So if you're trying to kind of counteract a lot of like scoring the point and trying to flip it over people, you're going to want a lot more control. So any teams that have the ability to push you, throw you, advance you, or even place you off points will be really good because it stops the free damage. Um, Also, you want mobile teams, so you've almost got to treat them a bit like a B shape, but it's twisted. So rather than it being you walk up and control a one on each side, you're almost controlling a side of the board, aren't you? If you're effectively slicing the board into
Yeah,
triangles rather than they're down the middle. So you're trying to dive your opponent's kind of column whilst keeping hold of your own, which I think will be an interesting change compared to B shapes.
yeah, I agree. And yeah, sort of talking about I think attrition teams don't mind this one either because you could double move, a character with a high health pool onto one of your opponent's secures, which have got like five health, 3 threats. And you could just literally just double move one of your characters on that point. So then you're taking 20% of their health off straight away. And then if you obviously being on the attrition side, more or less, most times, not all the time, but most times, you go taller. So yeah, just double moving and then getting priority and being like, right, there's two characters with 20% health straight away, and then just trying to double tap them both sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we'll kind of see this as we look at the other two secures, but the the rules of the crisis and the shape of the crisis almost do the opposite. So this wants to be a scoring mission with the shape and the crisis kind of VP bonus. Same with X-Men, but it incentivizes doing damage as well. So X-Men, obviously you get the bonus VP by doing the attrition.
Yeah,
Whereas normally pay to flips, you'd want to run the bases and kind of flip. You can kind of bring them together and create it in as a bit more of a brawly fight. This one is the same. It wants you to cluster up to try and take the point off your opponent to score the bonus VP, but then you have a negative of taking the damage. So I do really like the design of these two.
yeah, I agree. We were talking about it the other day, but I think they've absolutely nailed these new crisis. We were talking about sort of Demons Down Under, how it's so slow scoring, and you got incinerated. It kind of felt like that should be swapped with Superpower Scoundrels, where on the demons you gain cover, so it sort of benefits the crisis focused teams as well as the attrition teams. Again, with scoundrels, like there's 5 points, but if you sit on a point, you're going to get incinerated, which helps out the attrition teams as well. Which you can see on these secures that they found that balance. Obviously, I've not. This is the only one I've actually played, and it felt really fun. But yeah, I think they found that balance, which is really good to see. Really.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely change the way that you'll have to approach the kind of early deployment and where you're going to commit bodies to. It'll be very much like a B shape where you've got to pick a lane, and then rotating a lane will almost stagger you if you're trying to stop your opponent scoring points or kind of set up the next turns.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's going to be like you're going to be fighting between I'd say like three of them will be you'll fight about. I'd say like if you're going against say Cabal, they'll probably just put Bullseye on their back point, and then just chase your side of the board with a Malekith or a Red Skull or anything like that. So it feels like there's going to be a lot of fights on this one for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing sort of what teams do well on it, and yeah, sounds good. Was there anything else you wanted to say about this one, or should we go on to the next one?
Let's move on to the next one.
Perfect. So the next one is let's get it up on here. Survivors search for safe shelters. So this one's a strange one. So there's only three, which and it's a really sort of strange triangle looking setup, which is really cool. So yeah, you've got free shelter tokens. So yeah, King of the Hill, and you only score one VP on each one. But when a character contesting a shelter is targeted by an attack, one other allied character that is also contesting that shelter may spend one power. If it does, the character adds one die to its defense roll. A character can add dice to this roll in this way once per turn. So again, like I think they've absolutely nailed this, where it's slower scoring, but the crisis focused teams, just don't. Well, they're trying to make it so attrition still struggles a little bit into the crisis focused teams. But yeah, I think this one's going to be super super strong with rescue or Doctor Strange or any teams that can already bump up your dice and adding another dice onto it and then the heal onto it. If I don't think, I think if the attrition teams are going to struggle to get a lot of days and KOs out there. But what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think this is very much like you were on about before with demons or even gamma, like having them where they've actually got a benefit for teams that want to score points rather than fight. I think this will be really good for teams that have got any like defense modification, whether that's re-rolling, whether that's echoes, death dancer, or even martial artists like Count Blanks, because obviously their extra dice isn't just 5 out of 8 times not doing anything. They're getting a benefit somewhere, whether it's a re-roll, which is kind of pushing them towards the 50 to 60% of getting a success. Whether it's the martial artists obviously getting bonus faces, so they're more likely to get a benefit out of it. And Echo obviously having more dice faces to mod is helpful for her. The only thing is it does require you to bunch up, so you've got to have at least one character next to somebody else for it. And it
Yeah.
is obviously a power tax, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree. It will be very, very interesting. I think because it's a power tax, I think Asgard are going to be quite good on this. Just because obviously you always start, unless they're stunned, always starting or poisoned, always starting on 2 power will feel pretty good. So they can, you know, bump dice up, I guess, twice before activating. Um, and obviously Asgard probably want lower scoring crisis, so I think they're going to be quite good at this. But yeah, it's a really cool sort of setup. I do think, yeah, rescue. As I said, I think Rescue and Strange and all of the characters that can bump the dice up already and heal will be very good on this. Um, so yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this goes. Also, as well, it's sort of a good thing to say that it's 20 threat, so there's only 3 points and it's 20 threat, so there's going to just be a big bundle of people punching each other's face in the middle. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see who sort of takes what on this one and what sort of wins on it.
Yeah, I also think this crisis will reward good choice of which board side you have, because unlike every other crisis we've got, this is the first asymmetrical setup. So obviously, typically, if you were picking anything of a weird shape, it was still symmetrical. So like meteors is obviously a straight line. So although it's one foot further away from you, one slightly closer to you, you were still, no matter which side you picked, you were still getting the same setup. With this, it will change which side the terrain will be on. And it's worth noting that obviously the way it's set up is fixed for you, whether you have prior or not. But the terrain isn't, because you'll get one player will get to pick. So there could be a point where if you pick one way, all of the points are on terrain. If you pick the other way, they're not. So it will come down to, if you are playing this crisis, you'll have to pick your deployment zone a lot more cleverly.
Yeah, definitely. Which I think sort of thinking more about turn zero um, is a good thing. So yeah, really excited to see what happens with this one. Cool. I think that's probably more than enough to talk about on that one. So we're just going to go over to um, Assault Ship makes sweeping search. So I'll let you go through this one, buddy.
So this again is a King of the Hill. This is 4 spotlight tokens, and you score one for each one you can secure during the cleanup phase. Uh, but this also has an ability for once per turn. When a character is attacking during its activation, if the defender is within 2 of the spotlight, it may re-roll one of its attack dice. So it's quite key that it says during its activation. So things like counter attacks or out of activation attacks such as siege or surprise webhead don't get the benefit of this. And obviously it's only once per turn, so it's not going to completely blow things out of the water. But it does give either attrition teams or kind of aggressive turns a little bit more punch for trying to control stuff. And also because it's not contesting, obviously you can push people off points and still hit them really hard. So that will be quite interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think, as I said, I think AMG have done really well with these sort of the development of these new crisis because yeah, there's 4 secures, so it's a bit faster scoring than the 3, and we've got something that helps out the attrition teams with re-rolling one of its attack dice. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Um, Again, it's like a slanted B or slanted Guardians, which is really cool. It's a bit wider than the other one. Well, it looks like it's a bit wider. I could be completely wrong. Um, but yeah, looking forward to trying this one. I think teams like Shadowland Daredevil will quite like this. Being able to obviously use the leadership and then being able to pay a power to reroll another dice is pretty strong. Also, they'll be able to obviously change skull convert skulls, so that's pretty cool. Um,
Kang loves this one because obviously he gets
yeah,
a re-roll from his leadership if he's contesting, and then obviously you get a re-roll if you're attacking somebody else. So you can actually spread it out where you get your re-roll from the leadership on the first attack, and then the re-roll from the secure on the second attack. So you can balance it out, and obviously he's got mod skulls as well if you're if you're securing. So it makes some teams will get a massive advantage out of having a bonus reroll.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, and luckily, it's only 16th threat, so if Kang is on it, um, yeah, luckily he can only bring 10 extra threat.
Yeah, it does depend
Depending.
on what the extract is, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was literally
So
about to say that. Yeah,
yeah, if it's not your secure, you can force it so that you're not getting put onto 16.
yeah. You like if it's your secure and this comes out, and then his Kang's scrolls come out, he's going to be like, oh, fantastic! I'm going to pick 20, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so more stuff on the board.
But yeah, no, I think it's really cool seeing these new designs, and yeah, it's really exciting to see how, as I said, what's going to do well and what, whether it's going to balance the meta out. So whether Apocalypse and Inhumans are still going to be on top, or whether something else slowly makes its way there with a new Crisis. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll have to see. This it's worth. It doesn't kind of jump out at you, but it's worth noting. It is effectively like a slanted B because the ability to rotate between the closest corners is you still have to double move, even if you're a small base long mover or medium base medium mover. So it will require, again, a bit like a power outage, it will require you to rotate or set up correctly, kind of what goes in which lane. The distance between the two in the same kind of lane is still like a B shape you can medium move between on with a small base. So that's nice, but obviously it will require a lot more setup.
yeah, definitely. Um, awesome. All right, that's all the secures. Have you got any sort of final sort of thing to say about the new secures, or should we go on to the extracts?
Let's go on to the extracts.
Awesome. Right, let's go on the extracts. Just there. So this first one is evidence of experimental soldiers exposed. So it's 19 threat, um, and you've got three, which are sources, which is really exciting to see more sources. I've really enjoyed playing Jailbreak, so the fact there's more sources, I think's quite healthy for the game, and it's obvious where they're going with the sort of competitive side of it, which I really like. But yeah, so you've got three sources, and it's almost the same as Alien Ship and Legacy, but instead of three from a side, it's four, so it's a little bit closer to the middle. So yeah, so when you interact, you flip the server and pick up an evidence from it. Evidences are limited. A character cannot interact with a server while it is holding an evidence. When a character holding an evidence is attacked, it may reroll one of its defense dice. So again, it's slower scoring. There's only three of them, and you're getting the benefit of being able to reroll one of your defense dice, which I think is really cool. And yeah, so during the cleanup phase, like all of the sources, remove all evidence from a game and flip each exhausted server. But yeah, I really like this. Again, I think it's quite balanced with there only being three, but it helps the crisis focused teams a bit more because you're getting to re-roll one of the defense dice. But what do you think about this?
Yeah, this is because obviously it's the first odd source we've seen of the
Yeah,
jailbreaks. Even this will favour you having prio. So I think this kind of scenario will also not only will you if you're playing scenario, you'll be trying to stay alive with whilst holding the extracts. You'll also have to try and make it so your opponent makes difficult decisions about giving up prio if they're going to try and play the attrition game plan. So if you give up prio and it allows the scenario team to grab one or two in the case of anybody with grunts that can interact with extracts, uh, it could cause a swing turn where they get to pick up two and run off with them both, or kind of control them in such a way that it kind of goes against what you're trying to do with slowing the game down.
yeah, I agree. Which makes me think is Fury going to be in everyone's list of if I lose Prio, I can still pick two up just with Fury. Um, it'll yeah,
Possibly. The other character, which obviously hasn't at the point of recording hasn't been updated, but might be in the June updates, is Shadowland Daredevil and Elektra. So currently, their hand ninjas can't interact with sources; they can only interact with assets and civilians. But if they
yeah,
update it so that they can interact with any extract type, you could have it where the hand ninjas pick up, walk once, and then hand it off to somebody, so that you get that kind of unique interaction there where you've safely extracted two because Shadowland will be picking up another one. Um, Obviously, they're not as good for round one as Nick's grunts are, but because they reset every round, if you can control Prio in such a way, like it doesn't matter if they can't pick it up round one, they can hand it off and put it on somebody a bit more durable, like if it's in Criminal Syndicate, a Rhino or an Ulik, somebody like that. It's a lot harder to take it off.
yeah. The
Or if it's in,
only the only problem with that is Ninja Vanish is an action.
it is, yeah, but if you
So,
can walk once, you've still got. If you think a medium base,
oh, sorry, you
medium move, it's
mean
still quite a lot. You can, depending on where the secures are, they've got quite a big range of being able to hand it off. Whereas
yeah,
obviously with Nick's grunts, if they've got to keep hold of it, they can't pass it off. They can drop it where they want, but it'll. I would if they do get changed, I think the hand ninjas will be competing with Nick.
yeah,
Obviously, Nick's are easier to get out, and they don't take a turn of setup. But I do think the Shadowland grunts offer you a different option, especially if you have Prio, because naturally the Shadowland style is trying to be aggressive, so you're probably taller than your opponent.
yeah.
So if you can control Prio in that way, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely, and I get what you mean now. Sorry, I thought you were on about the hand ninjas doing that round one. But obviously, like later on in rounds, that'll be pretty strong. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, so I think round one. I mean, it works perfectly with Shadowland, doesn't it? If you take obviously Shadowland with the grunts and round one you win Prio, because then you don't have to, as long as they've obviously not got grunts themselves with Fury or Shadowland, you don't have to pick up with the grunts, because obviously they've got such a low health pool. You're probably just fishing them like a source, and giving them obviously a couple of extra power while doing it. So yeah, I think just looking at it, maybe Shadowland, you're happy to go 2-1 down round one if you lose Prio. But yeah, I think it's really cool, and it's good to note as well. This is obviously we've only got one source at the moment, being Jailbreak, but this one you can pick up and double move anywhere onto the board, and you won't drop them if you're within 5 of a board edge or anything like that. So you can play it a bit safer. Obviously, you don't want to play it too safe. The fact that obviously you lose the source at the end of the cleanup, but if it's like a detrimental round where I don't know you're 15-11 up or whatever it is, and you know that if you pick up and run away to the corner, you win the game, then it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I suppose the shape of it kind of disincentivizes you to go out wide, because it's harder for you to get back in, especially the middle one. Maybe the edge ones you can escape to an edge,
Yeah,
um, but you're still going to have to come back towards the middle somewhere.
yeah, I agree. But again, it'll be really cool to see this on the board. Um, and yeah, with the reroll of the defense dice, I think this works. It's going to work quite well with. I think Shield are probably the favourites on this. What I can think of, like the Namor Shield bubble nonsense, where you give them another defensive dice reroll. Also, as well, I think Agent Venom will be quite good on this, because obviously they can't reroll, same as Venom, and Echo and Taskmaster off the top of my head.
Yeah, the Prowler as well with his
Yeah,
range
of
four
course, Prowler. Yeah,
energy. So the other characters I can see being really good in on this, kind of on the total flip side, is obviously Black Cat's good on any scenario really with no mods, no crits. But anybody like Tigra or Black Panther Chosen of Bast, I don't think there's any other no mod characters, but those characters where they're getting to mod their dice, but you can't mod yours. So your dice are probably going to be somewhere near the middle,
Yeah.
averagely, and they could spike defensively and then re-roll and kind of push it past, so it makes them a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah,
Because
I
obviously both
agree.
of those characters don't have any other way of modifying their dice. It's purposely designed that way. So if they can get a defensive reroll, and both characters have also got stealth, so they're a lot harder to chase down.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's pretty going to be pretty strong, isn't it? Also, as well, a quick thought. I know who's going to be quite good on this. Obviously, it comes down to dice at the end of the day, but on the sources, I think spider foes are going to be pretty good with well laid plans because you can just sort of if especially if you're going green goblin leadership, you can let your opponent pick up the sources. And then obviously, you can just try to double tap certain people that round. And then one of the last activations, you're going to be like, right, okay, I'm going to play wild load plans and just deal more damage, which could be quite fun.
Yeah, it obviously is only once, like a once per game ability, but it can be really, really big, especially as it does damage as well.
Yeah.
It's worth noting Black Order also have access to that same card with Supergiant and Ebony Maw. So maybe because this is a slower scoring crisis, this is something Black Order would play, um, especially if they can get a kind of 4 point secure with it, or less. They would probably be happy with this one.
Yeah, I agree. And as well, like, if you were playing Crisis Focus Black Order, which would be quite interesting, but like husband and wife being able to, pick up two sources could win you games as well,
Yeah,
which would
you'd
be quite
obviously
good.
need the gem on Corvus for that, wouldn't you? You'd just so that he can walk, pick up, still be in range, hopefully in range of Proxima, fire it off, and then she can walk to another one.
Yeah, I think going sort of like in the later rounds as such, that could be quite beneficial. But yeah, there's some really cool things that can be done on this. Do you have any more things to sort of add on this, or should we go to the next one?
I think the only thing is, obviously sources are a power tax, so rather than standard extracts costing you 1 power at the start of the game and then you have to kind of keep hold of them, this is going to cost you a power every round you want to pick it up, unless you've got a refund in any way, like Prowler has, or it's Grunts paying, so they're not technically paying to pick it up because they don't worry about power.
Yeah.
Every other character is going to be taxed on this power, so it will require a lot of thought about what you really want your characters to be doing every round and how to manage your power economy a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a certain affiliation. We were obviously talking about APOC and humans being, the current meta at the moment, and whether that'll change with these new crisis. But someone that we've not mentioned yet is Bastion with the new Sentinels, and obviously his leadership's going to be quite good on sources and pay to flips and that sort of side of things because he can really punish you. He can be like taking lots of health off you and not giving you sort of minimal power back. So he's going to be quite interesting on these new crisis. What do you reckon of Bastion?
Bastion, especially with the amount of suppressive they have on the team as well. So not only are you not gaining power, they can take power off you. So you start your activation with very little amount of power. Um, they will be interesting. It will fall like into that kind of team. You'll have to be more aggressive to generate power. So it will, if they're getting a defensive reroll out of this, they probably really like this crisis. So
Yeah,
it
I
will be interesting
agree.
to see how this all shakes out. The other character I've just thought of that would be really good on this would be Voodoo, because Voodoo obviously has sap power on his builder. He's obviously got the throws. He can make it so you can't interact. So he could probably do something really horrible where he goes, hands out Brother Daniel before the end of a round, walks away to safety somewhere, and then that character, if they really need to go first to pick up a source, they can't because they can't interact.
Yeah, definitely. Or you could have it the other way around, where later on in the rounds, where someone's picked up an extract, or a source, and you go voodoo next, where you brother Daniel them, put it into a position where they have to double move one of their characters to pick it up, which you're probably fine with because it could be a character that they need to do other stuff with, and then obviously you can pick up another source with voodoo. But I think voodoo's going to be really really strong surprise on
Yeah,
this.
just like he doesn't need another buff, but oh well.
Definitely, yeah. But perfect. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So the next one is Sentinel Schematics Sabotage. So I'll let you go through this one, mate.
So this again is a source extract. So it's 4 factory tokens. When you interact with a factory, you get a nanite token, and you score 1 victory point for each nanite token you're holding during the cleanup phase. So it's worth noting that all of these extracts are limited, so you can't stack these. I think this one's important because this one is if you're holding a nanite, if you're attacking a character within range 2, you get to add 1 die to the attack roll. So it's very similar to old hammers, but it's not stacking, and obviously it resets every round. But also you've got the range restriction for the bonus dice, so it stops characters like Yondu and Bucky kind of sitting away at distance and plinking you for big dice pools, and you can't really respond. You've got to kind of get up in the fight and use them. And same as every other source, during the cleanup phase, all the nanites get removed and they go back to the source point. So you've got to pick them up every round. So it's
Yeah,
quite interesting because it's quite a tight map. So it will kind of force a lot of attrition, I think.
yeah, I agree. It is very, very close, so it's going to be quite interesting. I think all these new crisis are going to be very interesting, especially the extracts of what the secures are going to be. To see whether the secures are anywhere near the extracts or whether it's going to be interesting to see that anyway. But yeah, I think teams that like this, I think your team like this, because one, they get to add a dice to the attack roll within 2, but your leadership, you love to be within 2 anyway, so that's sort of like a winner-winner. Also, as well, you've got so many characters with martial artist where you more or less you're fine with them being within 2 of you. Yeah, they get an extra attack dice, but they're still likely, you're still likely going to survive because you're counting blanks. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
I've
Sorry,
been
Karen.
looking at this one. I think this is probably the one source that I've gone. I do want to play this one. Um, Obviously, because they reset, I don't have, unlike hammers, I don't have to worry about getting absolutely caved in by a spike and then having to try and get 3 or 4 hammers off a Hulk or an Apocalypse and worry about them kind of just blasting through my defensive tech. So I think this will be, I don't want to call it a fairer version of hammers, but it'll be a different play style to hammers because it'll still have the power tax thing with it being a source, because obviously hammers would power tax you on tactics cards. So it's still taxing you for getting these bonus dice, but obviously because you're having to pay it every round, it's probably more of a tax. So the power generation you're getting from the bonus dice probably is countered by that, so it's not as crazy. It's also probably very good on rapid fire characters that are up close. So anybody with an auto rapid fire is really good. So Punisher, Sin if she gets a health buff. Who else? The 3 threat widow. She'll get a benefit off this because obviously she's getting if she's within range 2, she's getting 5 dice auto rapid fire. So that's potentially 20 dice in a turn. But
Yeah.
then any characters that've got beams or area attacks really like this. So I can see Carnage loving this kind of crisis where it's really tight. So he can do Let It Be Absolute Carnage, his spender, where it's range 2 area attack.
Yeah, I was thinking range 2 area attacks are going to absolutely love this, especially if like the secures are quite close to this, and secures that you need to be bunched up on. You could pick up, move once, just to a situation where you've just got like two or three or even four around you, and just being able to do a lot of damage. So yeah, I also quite like Killmonger on this. I think it just makes it easier for him, especially when he's like usurped the throne. It makes it easier for him to get the kill, because then he'll end up having, well, depending obviously what order you do it in, but he'll end up, being able to add a dice with his builder, and then adding 3 dice to the spender maybe for the second attack. So he's quite good on this. But yeah, I think this is definitely a good one for your team. Um,
One is Steve 3, or Mighty Steve. Getting bonus dice on the attacks are more likely to roll a hit, so you're more likely to then be able to pay the leadership. The one character I don't want to see on this is Gambit, because it
yeah,
will be insane. More dice for him is better. So he's more likely to roll wild, and he's got dice to mod using a little something extra, or if he's being run under Mighty Steve, so he can then mod to a hit to get a wild, and then also mod the hit to a wild. So and then he's also got other opportunities to roll wilds because he's got more dice. So I'm not looking forward to playing against that, because one of our
yeah.
good friends plays Mighty Steve, so I suspect I'll play this one quite a lot.
Shout out to Mike, you suck. No, we love Mike. Also, as well, one of the other locals, James Jackson, he plays a very similar list to Mike, where, yeah, it's a Steve 3 with Gambit and reserve members. So, uh, adding another dice to this, and yeah, they've started playing Spectrum as well with it. So it's just, yeah, who's ever going to be in front of Gambit with 3 extra dice will not will not enjoy their life.
Yeah, it's hold on by the seat of your pants, I think, if you're playing this one.
100%. But yeah, all in all, I quite like it. This is sort of the first one we've seen where there's 4 VPs and it benefits attrition over. Well, no, actually, like, yeah, that makes more sense. I was going to say, there's 4 VPs, but it benefits attrition more than the crisis. But it's the other way around, isn't it? When there's 3, it benefits the crisis more than the attrition. So yeah, this makes more sense. But awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to add on this one?
No, I think this one kind of looks similar to Sword, but it's an actual square, whereas Sword was kind of a slight rectangle. So this is perfectly square, so it means you can always rotate with a medium base, medium move between, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do like this. Okay, going on to the next one. We've got salvage supplies, fuel resistance efforts. Do you want to go through this one, buddy? Or
Yeah,
did I
so
do the last one?
I'll do it. So
Okay,
this is
perfect.
two supply tokens, which are assets. So this isn't a source. This is the only non-source in the pack. You score 2 VPs for each source you are holding during the cleanup phase. So it sounds pretty normal, like everything we've seen before of asset tokens. You scoring VPs, you've got to pick them up. But this has a unique rule, which is you have to be able to pick this up. You have to have a non-grunt character contesting them, which obviously we've not seen before. We've not seen anything like that, so it's an immediate change from every crisis we've played. In addition, when the character holding a supply ends its activation, if it's not within 2 of an allied character, it will drop the supply. And if supplies would be moved to another character, such as a steal, i.e., Black Cat's kind of movement, or Kingpin's handoff, they are dropped instead. They do not get passed around. So there's no way to kind of skip that if you're not within 2 ability. You've got to stay close to other characters. So it's quite an interesting shape, especially as it's slightly lopsided as well. It's quite tight in the middle and it's slightly lopsided.
Yeah, I think out of all of the crisis we've seen, this is going to be the most janky. My brain's trying to brain of what actually is best on this and what's worst, but we've got, like, seen quite a few ideas out there. So I think Corvus and Proxima with husband and wife will be relatively decent of picking one up straight away. Again, you've
Fury's
sorry, carry
Fury's
on.
probably another good one because in Shield, you can walk somebody up to sit on it, and then the grunts can walk up and pick it up. So they can't help Nick pick it up, but they can walk, grab it, walk back, and stand in your deployment zone next to characters that haven't already activated. So they're safe, and then when they drop it, you get to place it somewhere that makes it easier for you to then pick it back up.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
the
also. Oh, sorry, Karen.
I was going to say the other one is Brotherhood. I've got a very silly one with Juggernaut and Magneto, where Juggernaut can double walk to your opponent's one, play Asteroid M, teleport Magneto up next to it, pick it up, and then Magneto's in your opponent's face, and they can either he can either move to his and contest it, and then have Mystique or another long mover pick it up and walk back again in the same way as the grunts have. Or he can then, if they kind of dive in on yours, he can walk over and push them off, so it makes it harder for your opponent to steal yours back. So again, they could probably get both of the extracts up very early.
Yeah, which is going to be very very tricky to sort of try to counter. I think if you've got more of an attrition team, I think you'll be okay against the Brotherhood side of it. But if you've got like a specific crisis focus like Webs or X-Men, you'll definitely struggle against that. Um,
Yeah, I think this is one that crisis teams try and dodge. I think this is very much like a Fisk kind of crisis where if you don't have jank on it or you can't counter your opponent's jank, you just don't play it.
yeah, definitely, I agree. But yeah, I think there's going to be quite a lot of jank on it. I think X Men will be relatively good on it. You can do sort of cool things where you move. If you've got priority, you can move a character as long as they've obviously not got characters that can advance or push you off. You move a character on their back point, and then Shadowcat can use the leadership off Beast or Iceman or something, and go pick it up. Then you can obviously do To Me My X-Men to get the other person a short move towards your team, and then place Shadowcat off two of the back of there, which is a cool one. But yeah, it's going to be it's going to be very janky. I'm looking forward to seeing what people sort of come up with on these ones. But I think Black Order and Brotherhood are probably the two better ones as such on this. Also, as well, I think Strange Defenders are going to be really really strong, and the same with wherever Moondragon is or Enchantress. Just being able to sort of force your opponent to either go with technically three of their characters because the first one's going to get advanced off by Moondragon or pushed off by Strange or something like that. So then they've still got to put two characters on there, and obviously depending where the secures are, it could really cripple them for picking that 2 VP up. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, another interesting one would be in humans. So the two I can think of are Maximus can obviously advance characters with an activated token, whether that's friendlies or enemies. So you could do it where you have to double walk two characters up there to grab it, and then Maximus can pull them back to safety. Because the only time it checks for the range 2 is at the end of its activation. So if they've already activated, you can drag them off into safety. So you don't have to drop it and then try and commit two more characters to get to it. The other one is using Lockjaw. So if Lockjaw starts next to somebody, he activates, gains the 3 power, teleports himself up, teleports his friend up with him. They're already standing there. Then, unless your opponent's got the ability to displace 2 characters, even if one of them gets moved back, you'll still have a character there. So Crystal can walk up, grab it, walk back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's going to be some real cool jank on this. But I think, as I said, I think this is going to be the mission out of all the new ones, which is the most janky. But yeah, very excited to see what gets played on this. Also, 18th threat is sort of in between, obviously high and low threat. So yeah, I guess they've not put it as 16 because I feel like putting janky stuff at 16 can feel bad for certain matchups if they've not sort of prepared for it or such.
Yeah, I like this one at 18. But then I quite like 18 in general because I think it's not too big that it gets overwhelming, but not too low where a kaiju will kind of run this kind of crisis, which I can see this happening. Um, it allows you to go wide enough to pick it up, but not so wide that it becomes really easy to skip around the restriction.
Yeah, definitely. Um, awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to add to this, or should we go to the last extract?
Let's go on to the last one, I think.
Awesome. I'll definitely read this one because I got you to do two in a row. So this is Surprise Assault, Mutant Homes Destroyed, which is 16 threat. And this is the last source. So there's four sources, but that's literally as far as it goes. There's actually nothing else that happens. You pick them up. You don't get any pros or cons on picking them up. You just cannot, obviously, you can only hold one. But yeah, this is really, really cool. It's the very, very similar shape to assault ships make sweeping search, which is really cool. But yeah, I quite like this one. It's quite close to the middle again, so I think it's going to benefit. Well, it'll benefit both Crisis and Attrition. One, there's four scoring VPs there, which will obviously benefit the Crisis, but the fact you have to stand in the middle to pick them up will benefit the Attrition side. But yeah, it's not actually too much to sort of say about this apart from the shape of it, really. But have you got anything else interesting to say about it?
Yeah, so I think this one's a little bit like I'm going to say Infinity. This is the Infinity of sources where there's nothing really extra going on, but the shape and the threat are the things that are going to kind of define how often it comes out. I think because it's 16, if you've got prio because you've picked your own secures and you're picking from your opponent's extracts, if you want to play 16, you'll dodge this one because your opponent can force you onto 16 because this is the first 16 extract we've seen. The the fact of that if you get this and a slower scoring one, it then becomes really interesting for a scenario team of do I want the lower threat or do I want the higher threat kind of choice, but the kind of slower scoring crisis, whether it's a source or a normal extract you pick up at the start of the game. So it'll be really interesting to see how often this one gets picked. Because obviously there's no negative, there's no advantage. So I can see this being in a lot of people's rosters, but I don't know how often it will actually see play.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, it's definitely worth noting that this is the first 16 threat extract. I think teams that love 16 threat probably always take this just to, just try to either force your opponent to play 16 or almost have it as a trap where no matter what else comes out over this, they're going to pick the other one because they don't want to play 16, which benefits your team. So I think like teams like Cabal or Midnight Suns, like I Halt Red Skull kind of teams will benefit on taking this. But yeah, it's interesting that this is the first 16, but I'm glad that they've actually got a 16 threat on the extracts side of things because it makes people think a bit more carefully on whether it's just they're just going to instantly be like, well, I'm picking my secures, or they've got to actually look through your list and see what you've picked. But yeah, not too much else really to add to that because obviously there's no other bit of it where you get re-rolls or anything like that. It's just you pick them up and you're holding them really.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's obviously quite tight. You can do depending on what the secure shape is, you can do the long move, small base, pick up and then walk back. You can do medium base, medium move, walk and pick up and come back. It really depends on the crisis shape whether you need to still be on the midline or not. I have played this one once on lockdown, and it's really interesting that you can be on each of the lockdown corners and still pick up one of these. So it'll be interested. I think this one will be either played a lot or not at all, and I can't work out which one it will be because I think the 16 will put a lot of people off.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting, as you said, with lockdown and stuff, and like with certain secures, some sort of what's going to be fun with it. Obviously, off the top of my head, it's very hard to see, but if you're playing scoundrels, you can probably be on one of the sides and pick up the extract, which will be fun. But yeah, I think, as I said, 16 threat going into an extract's really, really good. You can also do fun stuff with X-Men, as I said, with like Shadowcat, where you put Beast and or Iceman opposite one of their back ones, and then you can bump, pick up, and then run back. So then you can either go 3-1 up on extracts, or if they want to pick one of your ones up, then you've got certain people that you can just punch in the face. So yeah, I'm not too sure what teams will like this and which teams will hate it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see because obviously I don't think we've seen any other crisis that has no special effect other than playing the game, which is what this has. So I will be interested to see how many people gravitate to it or how many people go for the other styles of crisis.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, well that's all of the new crisis. Shall we go through the crisis that have stayed?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Awesome. Um, doo doo doo.
So
It's not
it's what
popping on
it's
my thing just yet, but okay, okay. Sorry. Just having a technical difficulty where it's not actually showing up on the backboard, but we can just talk through them. That's absolutely fine. So I'll just go through the list of the extracts and secures that have survived. So we've got alien ship, we've got deadly meteors, we've got guardian safe Shi'ar, infinity formula, Inhumans deploy weaponry, jailbreak, lockdown, mutant extremists, mutant madmen, scientific samples, scrolls, spider infected, superpowered scoundrels, unexpected guests, and a wedding party. So, is there any on that list that sort of you're surprised about, or you're happy that stayed, or
I don't think there's any I'm surprised have stayed. I think a lot of the ones that have stayed are, I'm going to call them very fair crisis. They're not skewed. They kind of force interaction in some way. Um, they're not one particular play style. There's some pay to flips in there. There's some non. There's some ones that will drag you to the midline. There's some that force your opponent to kind of come to you to interact. So there's different ones for different play styles. I think I'm I'm not surprised that stuff like intrusions and Fisk and all the D shapes have gone because they obviously forced one style of play. And if you were wanting to play the opposite style of play, you just never picked them. So they were pretty much I'm going to pick whatever the other one is. Um, it's also worth noting that every crisis we've got, there isn't a double in shape apart from the two B secures in Infinity and Mad Men, but they play very differently to each other. Um, so it's interesting because it means you can never really get forced onto the same shape. Um,
yeah, I definitely like that. Yeah, I think the ones that I'm surprised with, I guess, is probably mutant extremists, just because the way they're going with a new crisis, it's like obviously a lot like slower scoring, and obviously mutant extremists having six still on the board. But the fact that you can only obviously move once with a mutant extremist, they've probably felt is still okay. But yeah, that's probably the only one that's sort of um, striking out to me that I'm surprised about. Maybe Spider Infected because they got rid of cubes and canisters, but at the same time, there's that negative of you getting advanced, so you can get advanced and get double tapped with the Spider Infected, whereas there wasn't really too much of a negative for cubes and Terrigen canisters. Obviously, cubes you were taking damage but gaining power, so that used to help out obviously a lot of certain affiliations. Or you could have a Bill or a Kingpin or any character that like that, which could just keep paying power and just not take anything. But yeah, I'd say they're probably my only sort of ones that I was surprised about.
I think with Senators, very much like how you said with Spider Infected, that Senator still has that negative where it does force interaction.
Yeah,
So most characters are walk up to it, get stuck, and then can't go anywhere else. So that you're kind of stuck in an attrition focus. So although it's scoring you a lot of points, it will turn into a bit of a brawl in the middle until round two where people can escape. But even then, unless you've got ways to place or move without making a move action, you are still kind of stuck. So it's still going to be very focused around the centre. So although it's faster, there is a big drawback that it is going to become a bit of a scrum in the middle.
yeah. So I've got a question for you. You've the rounds drawn. You've got in front of you. I don't know. Let's just call him Jim, little Jim, and he's bought Brotherhood with him. And you're like, right, okay, I'll pick my secures and your extracts. And Salvage Supplies and Senators comes out. Which one are you gonna pick?
I think I'm picking Senators because I have better abilities to respond to it. But I think that's because I have a lot of long movers and wall crawler, so I'm not bothered about the terrain. I'm not bothered by the which one Juggernaut grabs and walks back with. I can kind of counteract that a little bit. Um, I don't think I'm playing supplies. Is it the two extracts where you've got to have
Yeah,
somebody contesting? I think that one for me is probably the one out of the whole set that I'm probably trying to dodge. Um,
yeah. You've got some cool players on that, I guess, with Mystic Ward, where Fist, I guess, someone like Fist could double move onto your point, be within three of their point, and just wait for, like, if you've got first priority, wait for them to move someone on there, and then you double move someone, pick up, and then Fist Mystic Wards the other point. So then you know you're guaranteed to have like a 2 VP lead round one.
Possibly. I think the only thing with that crisis is I don't think you put it in your five unless you've got some jank.
Yeah,
So
100%.
I think your jank has to be better than your opponent's jank for you to want to pick it. Is the only issue.
Yeah,
Like if I sit in a Brotherhood list, I'm not picking it. Um, so I think it is one of those where it's a bit like Fisk. It probably will be the least common of the entire packet, but it's an interesting design. So it may be when two teams have got it, they'll pick it. Or if you're playing a team that has got a lot of jank on it, but you've not brought it for a specific reason, if you prefer that over, say, Senators because you don't like trading as well, or the Source where you've got to stand on the midline because you've got a lot of squishy characters, I think that'll be interesting. So it will be unusual.
yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, that it'll be very rare that senators and supplies comes out, but yeah, I think obviously as a brother, like from a brotherhood side of things, they'd be quite happy if both of them came out. But also as well,
It's
oh sorry, Karen.
I was going to say it's worth noting that there's quite a good spread of crisis threats now. I've just had a quick workout. So we've got two 16s, one secure, one extract, 10 17s. So Apocalypse will be very happy. So that's five extracts, five secures. We've got two 18s, two secures, two extracts, three 19s, one secure, two extracts, and then five 20s, three secures, two extracts.
Wow,
So
520s is that's pretty
it's a
crazy,
lot.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah. So if
definitely.
you think that's what Wedding Party, Scoundrels, the new 3 point secure. I haven't learnt the names yet. And then you've got Jailbreak and one of the new secures we've just seen. Oh no, it's one of the old ones, isn't it? Which one is it? Oh, Scrolls. So if you
Yeah,
think
scrolls.
all
Yeah.
of them have got a a completely different style of play, so they don't all favour attrition, where you'd expect bigger threats to tend to be better because you can bring a lot of higher threat damage dealers. So it will be interesting to see how often 20 is played. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's a wider spread of stuff, so there's less 17s than there were in the last packet. So it will be harder, but not impossible, to force your opponent onto specific threats.
Yeah, I agree. And as you put it, like all of them 20 threats are going to be completely different. So you can't necessarily have, unless you've got like a very, very well rounded 20 threat, you won't necessarily play the same 20 threat on each one. So sometimes when I make a roster, obviously I look at each threat level and what I can bring. And sometimes you're like, well, at 20, I'd always bring this, but because there's obviously five crisis now on 20 and they all play very differently, I feel like you can't just have one solid list that will play all five, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. I think what's interesting about this is because they're all the crises are very different shapes now. They kind of all got different perks to them. So if they're slower scoring, they're trying to promote you to be more interactive. If they're faster scoring, they're trying to make it so that the attrition can be more um, proactive and kind of chase after the games. Um, so it'll mean that you will have to have a bit more options, I think, in your roster rather than sticking on a standard core. I think I think some teams will still have a core, mainly due to size or like kind of the balance of some of those models. But I think the majority of teams will get an advantage of having a toolbox almost, where you've got some characters that come out on very attrition focused maps and some that come out on more scoring maps.
Yeah, I completely agree. Cool. Should we go into the crisis that have been removed now then?
Yeah, let's go
So
through.
I'll just go through the list really quick. So we've got Cosmic Invasion, Deadline to Destruction, Deadly Legacy, Fear Grips, woohoo! Intrusions, Mayor Fisk, Mcran, Riots, Struggle for the Cube, Terrigen Canisters, and Montesi. So I'll ask you the same thing as I did about the ones which stayed. Which ones surprised you that have been rotated?
I think Montesi is the only one that surprises me. Um, but I think the only reason for that is they probably were trying to limit. They were trying to get as many of the new crisis in as possible, and they were trying to keep ones that give you if it's slower scoring, a benefit. So I don't think there's any drawbacks or kind of bonuses for for the other player if you're holding a Montesi. It's kind of a neutral one, a bit like how inhuman weapons are, but the shape of that forces you to the midline, so it creates a little bit more interaction. Whereas Montesi, you can grab the back one and kind of run off with it, and then if you've got a way to escape with your with the middle one, then that obviously favours one team over another. All of the rest of them kind of force a skew. So obviously Mayor and Intrusions were very attrition focused, and then all the D shapes were very scenario. So I'm quite happy with all the ones that they've taken out, and I'm very happy that all the stacking prices are on as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Stacky Crisis were pretty rough into certain matchups. I mean, I Hulk being definitely one of them. If you've ever experienced an Eye Hulk which has got three or four hammers, then yeah, you'll know what I'm on about. It just felt pretty rough. Um, but yeah, the ones
Kingpin,
oh sorry,
Kingpin was another one as well because obviously he could pass stuff around, so you could stack it on the most durable piece in his list, whether that was Rhino, whether that was Loki, whether that was himself, and just walk in the corner with them, and you've got to go and interact with him.
that was perfectly balanced, my friend.
I'm sure it was. Yes.
No, I'm obviously joking. Like, yeah, definitely. I do agree with you. Um, as I said, with cubes, being able to give Kingpin a load of cubes and him just being able to pay the power and not take the damage, and go into the corner was pretty rough for quite a lot of teams. Um, the ones I'm surprised with, I guess, is probably Deadline to Destruction, Mcran, and Terrigen, just because they were in the last Crisis Pack. But that just shows that I feel like AMG are looking at what's happening with certain crisis, and I feel like it's quite healthy that they've decided, right, okay, that's not going to work with the new pack, so we've got rid of them, which is quite nice.
I
Um,
suppose if you look at those crises, Terrigen was hardly played, Mcran was everywhere, and Deadline forced you to kind of incentivize particular models, like
yeah,
a specific playstyle that wasn't interactive. So the crisis ability was not really beneficial for one team. Where if you didn't bring those characters, you would be basically losing because you don't have those characters, rather than any kind of skill or roster options, which I think is why those three have probably gone.
yeah, and as I said, I think it's nice that AMG are actually looking and listening and taking the feedback back, and yeah, they got rid of them, which is really nice.
I've got a question for you.
Oh,
Which
okay.
which teams or characters are the biggest winners of the crisis being rotated out or new crisis, and which teams and characters are the biggest losers with the crisis being changed?
Oh, that is a good one. I think there's probably more losers as such. I think mid teams are the winners. I think sort of middle down, like, um, yeah. I think Daredevil Defenders is a winner out of these changes. Um, I feel like the ones that are the big losers, I guess, are Web Warriors with all the D's gone. We all know, obviously, Web Warriors absolutely love the D shape. I feel like Kingpin criminal syndicates are struggling because, again, they love the D shapes and they love the fast scoring, and they've got rid of quite a few of the fast scoring, like the F shapes as well. Um, I feel like Midnight Suns have got a bit of a damage with Mayor Fisk, because obviously just running Blade, Eye Hulk, and Red Skull 2 was really strong on Mayor Fisk. Um, Again, I think certain attrition matchups with Mcran going probably pretty upset. Again, with intrusions and hammers as well. Like, every team was great with a hammer, but obviously the attrition teams just absolutely loved that. Um, yeah, I think that's sort of my thinking on it. What about you?
Ones that spring to mind, and this is probably mainly with what I play, is any of the safe extract characters. So that's Angela, Namor, and ASM. But you'd probably also include Kang in that, as well as anybody that's got a safe extract play. So whether that's like Abomination or Bill in Midnight Suns, Iron Fist in Avengers, anyone that wants to safe extract and walk back and kind of hold onto an extract with a lot more sources. Um, I also think Kingpin Crims are quite heavily a loser in this, because not only have they lost the kind of fastest, some of the fastest scoring crises and the ones they really liked in the D shapes, that makes it harder for your opponent to kind of double up in places, because you just walk somewhere and get 2-1, and it forces your opponents to have to double walk themselves to counteract that. But then you'd be winning somewhere else on the map. The other thing that they've lost out on is all the stacking crisis. So you could do it where Black Cat runs in and steals your opponent's back extract, and then next turn walks back after she's been attacked and survived, or even died, and she hands it back to somebody else. Um,
Yeah,
and then it's a lot harder for your opponent to then kind of follow on, especially as Kingpin was always really good at cubes, because he can pay not to take the damage, or at least one of them. I think Kingpin was also not bad at deadline as well, despite the kind of ping damage was that Kingpin could pick up something and not take the damage from it. You were probably quite often running Bill as well in Kingpin Crims, depending on playstyle. So I think again that Kingpin's probably a big loser for me in terms of some of the crisis going. I think the new crisis he still likes. I just think he's lost out on some of the things that made him have really good matchups into certain affiliations. I
Yeah,
think
and as a dead old defender, you're really upset for a Kingpin, aren't you? Like
I know
I can hear it in your voice, mate. You're really choked up about it.
yeah, I'm really disappointed for him. Sorry, I'll just go and do my victory lap.
No, I think you're completely right. I think if I do go back to Kingpin, I would have to seriously think of a lot of changes in the list. Maybe I sort of go a bit more attrition heavy Kingpin, where he's still keeping up on scoring or, potentially still going up on points, but dazing the opponent. And yeah, I think there's a lot of sort of things that would need to change for Kingpin to be relevant. But yeah, I think it's healthy for the game anyway. It's nice to force certain changes. So yeah,
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's also changed the role of some of the very meta characters. So, like commonly, you'd walk Bill to the midline, pick it up, and just keep paying to reduce to not take damage. Obviously, with a lot more sources, Bill is not going to be as good because you can pick up, but he's going to have to keep picking up every round. So it's a power tax for him. And you can't like often Bill once he's got an extract wants to go last, keep aggressive, backing onto points, and then just go last to throw somebody off. So he has to then make the decision of do I pick up early and grab it and then not be able to throw somebody off to score a bonus VP somewhere for being able to tilt an objective, or does he wait and not pick up an extract and leave it to somebody else? It's also changed Namor's role a little bit because obviously Namor's still got the interact from his spender, but the steal is less impactful because he doesn't need to go chasing off as much. It probably changes his role slightly. I think the same is true of ASM. He probably doesn't see play as much on sources because he wants to grab and hold and run off and kind of force your opponent to interact with him. I think the same is true of someone like Black Cat. Black Cat obviously wants to pick up and steal off people, so it's going to cost her more power over the game because she's going to have to keep picking up. So I think it will change a lot of the meta characters you see and how they're used.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Which, as I said, it's really exciting to see. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next few months of seeing where the meta is after all this. So yeah, really exciting. Awesome. Shall we get into some questions from the Discord?
Yeah. So if you're interested in sending questions in to us, you can join our Discord. The link's down below in the podcast description. We're trying to build a super friendly community, almost like as if you were walking into a gaming shop. Lots of different opinions, lots of different people from around the world, experiences. But obviously, you could be speaking to people from halfway across the globe. So we're really trying to get that community vibe going. So the first question is from Greg, and I think we've kind of answered this a little bit with the question, but given your expertise, John, on Kingpin, what do you think the new rotation of Crisis for Crims, and how powerful is the source pass-off tech with Kingpin as part of the second part of his leadership that most people tend to forget?
Yeah, so I think Kingpin is going to struggle with a new rotation, for sure. I think it was obviously I'm struggling to remember all of the names, but I'm pretty sure it was assault ships. It was not assault ships. It was
Overload?
power overload. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be Kingpin's favorite new secure. And yeah, but I think they are struggling. Obviously, scoundrels are still a thing, but I mean, if if someone's played against Kingpin before and they still pick Scoundrels, then that's a them problem, I guess. Unless they've
Do you,
obviously got good counters and they can push everyone off points and whatnot like that.
yeah,
Um,
do you think Kingpin? Do you think you'll have to duel more? Because obviously, in the past, you were picking Kingpin for non-pay to flips and then moving into Modoc for pay to flips. Do you think that a Shadowland, a Claw, a Modoc are more likely to be played on slower scoring crisis than Kingpin because of the fact that there is that um, on some of the kind of medium speed, there's benefits for attrition, and then on the slower ones, there is benefits to defense. But because it's so much slower, with there a few more threes involved, that Kingpin's less of an option.
yeah, I think you're going to have to duel it a lot more. I think Modoc quite likes the mid uh, VPs of like, they're not too slow scoring, but they're not too high. So I think Kingpin, I think Modoc will be good as a criminal syndicate leader to take on a new crisis. And then maybe it's a case where you sort of mainly go Modoc leadership, and then as a niche crisis, you bring Kingpin out. Obviously, at the moment, my list was like very mainly focused on Kingpin, and there's like a niche point where Modoc comes out, but maybe you just swap that over, which could be a thing. But I do still think Kingpin's very very good on the sources. It allows you to pick two like without going, with I mean, you could even go with Fury, like take Fury with Kingpin, where you could actually pick three sources up in an activation, which is obviously super super strong. But yeah, passing the sources around, like a normal character can still pick up, pass the source, double move, pick up another one, which means unless your team's getting dazed in that round, you're going to go up on points every single time on the the extracts. So yeah, I still think he's going to be quite viable on them. But again, I think it'll definitely have to have some games on it and see whether he gets absolutely mullered or whether it's still decent. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it kind of shakes out in your roster. And if you do go back to Kingpin kind of for the long term, it'll be very interesting to see what the kind of meta shakes out with, especially locally, but obviously on a global scale and what people are deciding to take.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people take, or whether they just still run the same list and still do well with it. I'm not too sure, but yeah, only time will tell, I guess.
Exactly, and that's what I love about MCP. Even when you think everything's stable, it'll still shift.
100%. Yeah, I love that about it.
Okay, next question is from Leon. Given the new crises are slower and we're expecting health buffs for most characters, do we think we will see more games running to time at events? And should we allow more time for games to compensate for this?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting one. Short answer, I think no. I think an hour and 45 still is very reasonable time to play a game. But again, saying that, I think you will see certain matchups or certain games running to time more. I mean, as we said, there's five crisis now, which are 20 threat. Which obviously, the more activations you've got to take, the longer the game's going to go. And if the fact that a lot of people are going to get health buffs, people aren't going to get dazed and KO'd as quick. So I think games will go longer. But yeah, I don't think we should add any extra time onto the hour and 45. I mean, most events go 4 rounds, so even adding like 10-15 minutes per round, you're adding an extra hour onto the day. and obviously a lot of the gaming stores are only open at certain times. So I think you'd struggle. I think the only way of being able to do it is if you deducted it to 3 rounds, which again, if you've got like 16, 20 players, then that's going to, feel pretty bad that you're going to have quite a few 3-0 3-0 players. So yeah, I think it should just potentially stay the same. But what are you thinking about that?
I think it'll change because it'll be based on player speed. So I suppose in the old kind of set of crisis, we didn't need to be as fast because we knew it would go to 4 rounds because of the speed of the game. I think it'll change now because there are some slower crises, but then there are some crises that give bonus VP. So maybe it won't be as slow as we think it will be. Um, I think it'll be interesting to see how the community kind of oscillates, whether it does skew towards attrition to start with and then swings back when people realise it's not going to be as slow as they think it will be, or whether it will just kind of lean into that attrition all the way through the year until we get the new set of crisis next year. But I don't think it will be too much of a problem. I mean, I know it's only 1 health point on each character, but kind of, or 1 or 2 on each side, so it shouldn't make too much difference. Because if you're going from being dazed in a round to being living on 1, that character's still going to get dazed. They're just getting a dazed a round later. So I don't think it changes too much. It just means it might mean they get an activation in round 2, for example, rather than round 3. So I'm not sure it'll change too much.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, as I said, I think the only thing which will make the games go longer is the fact there's 5 crisis out of 20 threat now. But again, I think people should know how long to, I think there's been 20 threats in the game ever since the start. Um, so yeah, I think games should still go for the same amount, maybe take a couple minutes longer here and there, but I think we should be okay anyway. Um,
Maybe 20 threat, you start incentivizing bigger threat models because there's not as many wider crisis as in shape. So going kind of super wide is less incentivized because obviously sources as well. You don't, if you're giving up prio, it means you're not getting the first source pickup. So you're getting less choice on the board of where to go. So if you're having to pick up on a source in a less optimum position, you might be activating a character you wanted to typically go with later on, but you're having to pick up there first because if your opponent picks that one up, you're not going to be able to get it back off them.
yeah, no, I completely agree. But it'll definitely be interesting to see. I think at least the first one, maybe 2, even maybe 3 events with the new crisis, they will just take a little bit longer, the games, just because of people getting used to, how to play on them. But overall, I think we'll be fine.
Okay, so another question from Leon. Um, do you have any hot takes that any of the new crises will be very powerful for particular affiliations? Have you seen any that make you go, quote, bloody hell, what's my game plan for that?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think we went into it when we were on the supplies, Savage supplies fuel resistance efforts. I think that's going to be the most sort of janky one where you have to have a good game plan for it. So I think, as I said, like Brotherhood, and characters like husband and wife and things like that will be really good on Mem Crisis. So I think that's the one which sort of strikes out to me to be the most janky, and I think that's the main one that you need to have a game plan on. I think all the others are sort of okay to wing it as such, but I think that one you definitely need to have a game plan for. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the one that comes to mind the most. The only other one I can think of directly is the Hour Outage one for Kingpin, but that's only because he can get the bonus VP very early, whereas other teams are a little bit more either trigger dependent or rely on kind of, I don't want to say jank, but kind of interesting tech or attacks that place and throw and all those kind of things to get the benefit of it. Um, Maybe the crisis, sorry, the extracts, they might cause a skew with sources and change how like early rounds go because is it the Sentinel? It's not schematics. It's the one where it's the three on the line. I'm still trying to learn the names. That one, obviously,
Evidence of experimental soldiers exposed.
that's the one. That one, obviously, typically, if that was like alien ship or legacy virus, you'd send in someone like a name or a ASM to grab and then walk back. But there's no benefit to doing that now because you're just stalling that character for power. So Namor doesn't find it too bad because he can still charge afterwards. But ASM, it kind of cripples his walk, grab, walk back in, and then kind of hold on to it. Angela probably does the same because she hasn't got any action compression. She's not charging back in either. So that probably changes the game plan for some teams. You're probably looking at more characters that can stand on the line and deal, like take damage, and deal with the kind of punishment that comes at them.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Also, as well, I think another one which stands out for me is the X-Men Infiltrate secret weapons facility. I guess you need to have some sort of game plan on which side you're planning on sort of taking. Well, you can obviously take both sides, but which side are you sort of focusing on more? And when you win that, which one are you gonna move, and where is the arc gonna get placed, and that kind of stuff. So I think that's another one that sort of reaches out to me, that you need to have some sort of game plan on it. But yeah, I think the overall winners as such for affiliations on the new crisis will probably be I mean, I yeah, it's hard to say, but I'd say Bastion Sentinels, which is quite strange because he's not actually out yet, so we don't necessarily know. Obviously, we've played a couple of games against our local meta, which are running them, but that's obviously not enough games to decide whether that's going to be like really really good in the meta, which again I think it's going to be, but again we need to have more games to see what happens. Also, I think Strange Defenders, unfortunately, are going to be everywhere still. And I think they're benefiting from the new crisis the most. So I'd say they're the two affiliations that I'd say benefit from a crisis the most.
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier on in the cast about mid-range teams getting a buff. So anybody that doesn't want to skew is probably happier with this set of
Yeah.
crisis. So both versions of Spider Foes. I think you're probably looking at X-Men, especially obviously when these crises become legal in the Challenger set. There'll be changes to characters as well. So you might find X-Men going from 5/5 to 6/6 suddenly changes their ability to play King of the Hill crisis better. You're probably also looking at what Midnight Suns without Eye Hulk because they're kind of mid-rangey. Same again with kind of Daredevil Defenders. Avengers probably get a buff as well, don't they? If you're probably thinking like Steve, both Steves and Sam, they're probably quite happy playing fast scoring crisis that incentivize attrition, but also playing slower crisis that allow them to stay alive. They can kind of trade well still with the mid-rangey teams, but those are the kind of ones I'm expecting to see have some success on a lot of these crises because there's nothing that skews against them and kind of ruins their kind of game plan of being able to do both attrition and scenario depending on the way the game's going.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. Which it's always good to see sort of the mid-range teams do better, and like I'm guessing some mid-range teams will go from that mid-range to being sort of a bit above the curve, which is obviously always healthy in a game system to have affiliations as such, sort of jump up and down. I think, but yeah, also as well. I mean, X Men should just auto win X-Men Infiltrate secret weapons just because it's called X-Men. And same with Sentinels with Sentinels schematic sabotage. What do you reckon?
Sure how that works. How many times have you won Mayor Fisk, John, playing Kingpin?
I will pass.
There we go. It'll probably be the exact opposite, won't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And the last question from Leon is, which crisis are you most sad to see rotated out, and which crisis are you most pleased to have stayed?
Yeah, so we spoke a little bit about this when we went into it, but personally, I'm sad to see the D shapes leave, but again, I'm happy because I think it's good for the game that they're leaving. But it's just a personal preference that I prefer them sort of matchups. So they're the ones I'm probably the saddest to see go. The ones that I'm not sad to see go is definitely M-Cran, Mayor Fisk, and Intrusions, and Hammers. They're probably the four that I'm happy to see go. I think yeah, Hammers. It felt good, I guess, but again, like I play a lot more scenario focused, so I don't want anyone with extra dice pummeling my face in. Um, Intrusions felt quite strange. Like it was very hard to win on Intrusions as a pure scenario focused team because you can't really run that far away anywhere because they can just go through the portal and track you down. Mayor Fist giving everyone stun and damaged was rough. And M-Cran just was so swingy. So I'd say they're the ones I'm happy to see go. But yeah, what about you?
So I don't think there's any I'm sad to see go. I think a lot of them are skewed things. So playing a mid-rangey faction, I'm not that upset. I think the one I'm definitely happy that has stayed is Mutant Madmen. I think that's my favourite crisis. I think like the way I play Daredevil Defenders really suits that crisis. So getting to keep that is nice. I probably still won't play it very often because people won't pick it into me, but um, just knowing it's still there, having a don't call the safety net, but um, having that in my five is still good because I'm not having to relearn an entire list and kind of change the game plan. I've still got a game plan where even if I'm pulling a source, ASM's still got a game he can run. Same as a lot of the characters have got full physical defense. So Daredevil loves it. Shang-Chi obviously loves it because he can bump somebody off and still have a go at flipping it. All these kind of fun things. So that one I'm just happy to see stayed. And it's kind of same with Guardians of Shi'ar because it's now the most unique pay to flip. All the rest revolve around defenses, so it's either physical or energy. It's the only one that rolls against something different. It's always flat 3 dice. So it's a pay to flip that teams where they've got a skewed um, like defense isn't worried about it, or it means that you always know what you're rolling. Like you're never going to have a Carnage walk up on Mutant Madmen and just auto flip it over 3 characters. There are ways you can play it where it locks your opponent out from flipping over you without doing attrition or control.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're all valid points. But as I said at the start, I think it's very healthy for a game system to change the missions and the crisis and everything. So I'm really excited to see all of the new ones played. So yeah, I think that's all of the questions done. We're going to do something quite fun on the podcast where we're going to start asking people for hot takes of MCP. So it could be like an actual literal hot take that people disagree with, or it could be a joke one, or it could just be a bit of fun, really. But I think the best way of starting is if I give a hot take and then you give a hot take. So my hot take is X-Men are bad on pay to flips. I know you're probably
Yeah, go on.
thinking. I know you're
Go on,
probably thinking
justify
I've
it.
gone
Go on.
mad. Yeah, I know you're probably thinking I'm absolutely mad, but hear me out. So I think they used to obviously be absolutely amazing on pay to flips. Storm X Men probably took all the pay to flips and absolutely loved them. But I think the way the game's gone, it's gone a lot more heavy on the attrition, which I think X Men just really, really struggle with. Yeah, first class is great of flipping a point and picking an extract up, and going up on points that way. But yeah, I think going against teams now which flip their points and then just dive onto your points as an X Men player and then just kill everyone, they're still winning on points or going on, on par with points. And yeah, I just don't think X Men are very good on pay to flips anymore.
So if I be the opposite point to that, what about Emma and the headmistress? What about the ability for X-Men to control people through? Obviously, they've got Emma, they've got access to Professor X now, who can walk people off points. Beast and Magic are incredibly strong. I mean, Gambit's really good for attrition still. I know X-Men don't boost dice natively, but they can splash characters that allow them to boost. They've got a lot of really good characters. When the kind of character changes come in, does that make them more survivable? Does that make them better on pay to flips?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like it's a bit of tongue in cheek saying they're bad on pay to flip. They're still good, but I don't think they're as good as people are making them out to be. I mean, Storm herself, I've not seen a Storm list at an event for a long time, to be fair. And yeah, they've definitely got good characters in there for pay to flips. Obviously, Gambit's a good attrition piece, but I don't think Gambit, even if you bought like a fully attrition X Men list like Gambit and Domino, Psylocke, all of those characters, I still don't think they withstand the heavier attrition teams, and I still think they go down with it. So yeah, I think the way we are with the game at the moment is like the heavy attrition teams absolutely love the pay to flips, and because Storm is like mainly a crisis focused team, she's not enjoying the pay to flips as much because of that. But obviously there's good counters for it, and she's still not bad on them. I just don't. I think there's better, better affiliations out there which just love pay to flips. And if say a Malekith or I don't know, a Red Skull, Master of Hydra, any of them sort of, on the pay to flips, just flip their own points and then just come and kill all the X Men. Yeah, they're not having a good time.
Yeah, I could probably agree with that. I mean, probably Relay Station is one that they're very happy to see come into the packet because that obviously is a D shape, so it's spread out, so it's harder for attrition teams to focus them down. So maybe that is X Men's kind of strong pay to flip now. But it'll be interesting to see how they get on in the new kind of challenger set.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be nice to see Storm X Men come back because they were very very strong at one point, and then it just felt like overnight it sort of all fell apart from them. And I don't really, can't put my finger on what it actually was, but all I think is it is just they're becoming more and more attrition pieces, and yeah, just absolutely killing them. So yeah, but what about you? What is your hot take of the day?
Okay, so I'll pick a hot take that relates to the podcast. I think next year AMG should look at Terrigen Mists and the Crisis cards that they designed for the 25 Adepticon event. So the X-Men themed ones should be considered for the next Crisis rotation. I know Terrigen Mists hasn't been legal for a long time, and I know the Adepticon ones haven't been released, but I think they're super kind of fun. So obviously Terrigen Mists is very similar to Wedding Party and Fisk, but it's even wider. It goes to the range 3 of the board. and obviously it places and deals the damage and gives out poison, so it's less severe than Fisk. But they could possibly, I mean, even if they re-released it because it's never had a rework, they could make that slightly different way. It gives out poison and that's it. It doesn't deal damage. That would be, I think, a new and interesting way of playing that crisis. And because it's more spread out, it's harder to bring them together. So it kind of incentivizes a different style of play than Wedding Party and Fisk does. So I'd like them to look at that one. The three secures and extracts they did for the Adepticon event are kind of shapes that we've seen before, but they're fun and interesting takes on them. So you've got for the secures, you've got sinkholes open across city, malfunction simulation gone wrong, and Blackbird crash secure cargo. So one's an E shape, one's a D shape, and one's a B shape. But they've all got just a very small rule, so it's not a big effect in the game. But it'd be a way of bringing back some of those shapes without bringing back what Crisis we played before. So it will change the play style of those style of maps, especially if they decide that they want to rotate out Mutant Madmen and a few other of the older style Crisis, but still want the shape. The same is true of the secures. So if they finally decide they want to rotate out Senators and Grulls, you've got Cerebro locates dangerous mutants and Blackbird Crash retrieve exotic wildlife. Those two share the same shape as those Crisis, but they give something slightly different. And they're obviously a different style of those Crisis. So they're very similar shape, but they operate in a different way. So I do think that would be of interest, and it means they're not having to design more Crisis, so that they could completely reflush the challenger pack by bringing in the 5 new secures and extracts from the next set, plus 3 or 4 of those, and then suddenly you've only got 5 or 6 that we've played before, and everything's new, and it completely changes the whole meta on its head.
Yeah, that sounds all reasonable. Speaking of Terrigen Clouds, do you reckon they would have to make it that you score 1 VP per cloud, or do you reckon it's still okay scoring 2 when there's 3 of them?
Well, they could. It's only 2. I think it's the map card obviously reflects the old style way of doing the cards with the map C, but they could leave it as 2 VPs, but you just make it so that they're the widest sections of the old C map,
Yeah,
um, which obviously means it's a lot harder to rotate, which might incentivize attrition teams because obviously they can focus down on both, but then do scenario teams kind of forego 2 points and try and win the other one and make it harder for the attrition team to rotate across? It kind of asks a lot of questions, especially if it's mixed with stuff like sources and those kind of things that are much more central. I think it would be an interesting kind of combination. And obviously, the poison, it's different to, it would be very different to Wedding Party and Fisk, where obviously Fisk is giving out damage. So if they took the damage bit off and just said it's poison, it's not the same as Wedding Party where you're losing power. It's you could shake the poison, so you're still getting your power in the power phase, or I mean, poison's more of a common immunity, so it's less of a special condition like downside.
yeah,
But also, then some teams can try and play it and use it as a fun way of playing around with the poison. So, like Struck a Hydra, it gives them kind of a fun advantage where other teams have got advantages on other maps. Same is true of like bringing Warlock in New Mutants. That would be another fun way of doing it. I think there's a lot of play with it, and I don't see it as a problematic crisis.
yeah. That makes sense. I would love to see Strucker Hydra becoming the new meta. That'd be hilarious. I ran Strucker Hydra for a little bit and really enjoyed it. And there's definitely fun things you could do with Amiga Red and Abomination on that map. Yeah, it would definitely be fun. But yeah, that's a valid point. Um, but yeah, if you want to give any more hot takes or any talk about any of the podcasts or anything in general, really, then the Discord handle will be in the description, and definitely join. There's quite a few of us now, and it's really nice to get more friendly faces, and yeah, more chat about podcasts that are coming up, or YouTube content or anything like that. So yeah, the more the merrier. But
Yeah, it's starting to really grow now, the community. So um, we look forward to seeing you.
yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, I think that's enough from us, and yeah, hopefully we'll do another podcast in maybe like 2 months, 2.5 months, maybe, of how we feel about the new crisis, and which ones we feel are like the best and worst for certain situations and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's amazing to talk about the new crisis as we read them, but we all know that reading them and playing them are two completely different things. So yeah, it'll be great to do another podcast in the future on what we actually think about them. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Catch you in the next one.